Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name's Brian.
And I'm Ethan.
And we're here with a Brawlmachine battle report. And this is going to be my Goreshade 1 going into Ethan's
Morvahna 1.
And I think this time we're trying to do, we call this one Broken Machine. We're just trying to take some casters that we feel are a little bit above the curve in Brawlmachine and just kind of throw down nitty gritty with some nasty stuff.
So my list this week is Morvahna 1 in Tharn, and my pairing this week, I tried to find there was a few circle casters I cycled through. My pairing ended up being Morv 1 in Tharn with Malsair in Tharn, because I think both of those might be too good for Brawlmachine, and they have certain aspects that either are huge gear checks or kind of break the format. With Morv, I ended up bringing a Blood Shaman as my rec option, Brennos, Moonhound, and Gorax, and then a max unit of Bloodtrackers and a min unit of Blood Pack. And like not having Nuala in the main board because she is in my sideboard might seem weird, but I figured having the Blood Shaman for an extra mortality a turn, and then having actually having a solo in the list would be much better than having Nuala. It's raw power of like repo and quick work, because then I could see if I needed her and then swap her in the second game, because my rec options or my specialists are Gallows Grove, Night Witch for stripping upkeeps, a Gobberchef, a Shaman for magical weapons, and Nuala.
So for the pairing that I brought today, which I'll describe that before I get into Goreshade, because again, the Cryx versus Circle matchup, I drop an infantry list into an anti-infantry pair. I had Denegra as my other one, and this is Denegra 1 in Ghost Fleet. So I wanted to bring her in that just to see if it would function as like I would think it would, but with as much RFP that Ethan has access to in his pairing, I couldn't drop it. So I decided to drop Goreshade instead. I can leverage my heavies a little bit here and maybe get some recursion on the Banes, and at least if he wipes out the full unit of Banes that are in here, I can at least feat to get more business back in the game. But the gist is that I've got a Desecrator and a Slayer as my battle group. I bring Banelord Tartarus as my requisition option, and then I have Scrap Thralls for Soulgate targets, along with a Machine Wraith. Any incorporeal solo in Brawlmachine is just really valuable. And then I've got my full unit of Bane Warriors with their unit attachment. So again, I'm punching up a little bit again. I'm on my same garbage about bringing two lists that do similar things, but Goreshade 1 just has such a powerful feat in a game where you're bringing low amount of points. It just seems like getting, like a 10-point swing just feels really good. So it should be crippling enough to really take care of the problems that I have with the matchup. So I won the roll to go first on this one, and I didn't really care too much about the side that I took. I would have much preferred to have Ethan's side because the terrain over there doesn't hurt me, and the building is a little bit more punishing than the rough terrain that's in the middle. But I figured it would be better for me to get turn 1 to just kind of draw this line of engagement early, because my list doesn't have any threat range increasers. Like Dark Wraith is really a sweet piece for Dark Hosts lists, but I just can't get him in here, and I figured since Goreshade doesn't really do anything to speed up the Banes or make them hit harder, that it was just better to put Banelord Tartarus in here to get the vet leader bonus on them. But I'm just kind of setting up to take this middle part of the table. The Banes can kind of cross over through the middle if they need to, and then I threw one Slayer on the very bottom edge of the zone to go for that box or that square zone, just because I feel like Ethan's going to kind of curve over that way with his battle group, of course, because he's got a heavy and a light over there. What else would he want to do with them? So the Slayer kind of hangs out in the cloud that I've put up for my theme, and then the Machine Wraith is running up to get ready to contest zones and be hard to deal with, but there's a bunch of magic weapons over there, so I've got to play him a little bit more carefully.
So my turn 1, I did pray the max unit of Banes with the Bloodtrackers. I don't know why. Like, I just couldn't think of it. She put up Harvest on herself, Restoration on the Bloodtrackers, where it's going to live all game. And I'm just measuring some threats. I feel like I should apologize because, like, some of these models broke the last time I moved. Like, as you can tell probably in the transition, even from here, my poor blood pack, some of them were missing their poor heads because they were in the other box and I couldn't find them. And my Argus is proxied by a wild Argus because I thought my Moonhound was in my bag that I keep here permanently because I like semi-live here every weekend. So I had to use a wild Argus instead, but it is just a poor Moonhound for that sweet mark target and stripping stealth. And then everything's moving up. I'm staying outside Slayer threats, and I'm just trying to measure his threats. He only threatens 9 with his 1-inch melee stuff, so he can't even fit over the wall. So I'm just moving up, claiming board space, and then I'm going to try and get every Tharn Bloodtracker into the zone, and then outside threat. I know he has a Scather AoE, but realistically, I don't care, because even if it drifts, kills 3 or 4 dudes, I'm just going to bring them all back. He has Lamentation, so like I'm going to have to pay double upkeep for it, but it doesn't double the cost of focus or fury spent per lady, so I'm just going to get him back no matter what. And then Blood Pack are just kind of moving up. They're just really here for feat triggers because POW 14 guns from downtown with arcing fire is pretty good, and POW 16s with mortality.
All right, so I'm already kind of in a weird position this early. Ethan's stuff is very fast and very threatening with the ranged attacks, and I don't have a whole lot to defend against it. Even the Prowl from the Clouds, if I would have positioned them a little bit more aggressively, probably wouldn't do a whole lot for me here. So I decide to start off with my Desecrator to try and get some attritional advantage on these Bloodtrackers. So I saunter up. I think I'm fully loaded right now between the 1 allocation from Goreshade and the accumulator, and I end up scoring a pretty good drift here. It goes 2 inches to the 1 and goes back into 3 or 4 Bloodtrackers.
Catches 3. It just barely missed the back one.
Gotcha.
And like you can see me just resting on their heads.
Yeah, this is how emotionally invested you are in your poor Bloodtrackers.
Well, I mean, I have 2 units of them, so like. Because I used to run Morv's theme where they were FA3.
Do you have two fully parted units between the two of them?
Between the two of them, I can make 1 fully parted unit.
Nice. So the Scather gets to go down, and it's not in the most controlling position. There's a couple Bloodtrackers that probably have to go through it if they wanted to do something really effective. So it has been a good long time since I played against Morvahna 1. I think the last time I played against her was when we went to Oshkosh and played in a bad caster game. I think I brought Butcher 2. No,
I think you were just playing Butcher 2's Mark II theme, and I was playing Morvahna's Mark II theme where she got 3 units of Bloodtrackers, and it was... You were playing Doom Reavers into Morv, and it was just like...
I can't remember what it was that I did. I think it was... Whatever it was, it had Cossites in it, because I was like, I'll bring these and try them out. Maybe it was Butcher 3. I'm not sure. It was a Butcher, and Morvahna was just doing her thing. So it's been a long time since I've seen her kind of evolve, right? So my Bane Thralls are kind of running up the middle of the table, and I decide I'm just going to layer them and try and jam them out that way. Scrap Thralls are running out to the side just in case I can get any cool Soulgate tricks with them. Soulgate's something that I really want to use, so making sure these Scrap Thralls get into really weird places is kind of one of my prerogatives. The other thing is that for 2 points, you get 3 of these things, and they can score flags and contest zones like nobody's business. I mean, they contest for a turn, and then they die horribly. But I think for 2 points, getting this many bodies that do that many things in this list is pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other 2-point options in Brawlmachine that bring you as much dudes and utility, because like there's still explosions on a stick. Like
yeah, POW 14s that hit at map 5, that's not bad going into heavies.
And even my Bloodtracker's like, yeah, you'll miss, but then that's a POW 7 explosion.
Yeah,
POW 6.
Yeah, I think it's POW 6 on them. So it's not the greatest thing in the universe, but it's still something.
And then my Arm 11 ladies it is.
Yep, and I think I'm just kind of jiggling Goreshade back and forth here. I want to make Lamentation worth something, but those Blood Tracker or Blood Pack are like a little bit on the scary side for me. So I don't want to just watch Goreshade go down on turn 2. I ran I zoomed in the camera a little bit to kind of show the middle of the table more. So my machine wraith has run off the side, kind of behind this forest. He's lining up to contest a flag later, because Ethan's got to commit a lot of resources to deal with this thing. So I think having him off on the side is fine.
It's worth noting, we just double checked, and scrap thralls are actually POW 16 explosions. That's really good.
Yeah, it hurts quite a bit.
Like, that kills Tharn, like male Tharn, if you can hit the 8.
I mean, I don't have any help in Goreshade's list to do that, so I don't have my vet leader, scrap thrall buddy, which I don't think exists.
No, I don't think he does. So there, I'm reviving all 3 of the ones he killed.
Yep, all that hard work to get that good scatter is worthless.
That's why I'm like, I don't care if he kills them, because I just bring him back in the aim range. So I had to spend 3 to bring 3 back, spend 2 because they were in lamentation range, and I spent 1 for harvest. I'm hoping I have a cute little activations to do before Morv that will get me enough to mortality that unit before my workhorse models have to go, because harvest is kind of hard to get off at 25. There, my spell slave goes up, misses a mortality because she's magic ability 6, needed a 7. So I'm like, I'm off to a rocky start. I was hoping if I mortality'd, I wouldn't need to primal Old Man Goat Hands, because he is an old goat. He's POW 16, so he's dice -1, and I'm in range to get the reach attack, but not the 1-inch melee. So like, I need all the attacks I can get, so I do primal him. Primaling at Brawlmachine level feels very, very wrong to me, but it's a necessary evil.
It's like a weird trade, right? Because like, you're gonna take a heavy with it, but then your heavy's gone for that activation. But sometimes that frenzy attack might actually do something.
Yeah, but it's like losing a whole activation. Like,
yeah, it's rough.
Brennos is only 15 points, so he's half my Balger, but he is my only heavy. So he's a lot of my heavy hitting melee power. So
God, he's so huge.
Yeah, he is. The bottom half of his staff, I had to prop up his foot because the staff was too big and was dragging on the ground and broke off.
Yeah, he's massive.
So there, my charge attack does really well. I buy an attack. With primal, I'm hitting the 6s, because actually I need 5s. So if I hadn't primal, that attack would have missed. Dice +1. I'm doing okay. And then I get him down to the last attack. His movement is out, so I do hit, I do kill. And now I Battle Wizard my AoE, because Brennos says Battle Wizard, because he is a wizard. And he hits the Scrap Thrall to POW 14. AoE 4, but it stays in play, but it doesn't really matter because he has nothing over there that can shoot. So now I'm scoring that zone, but I'm going to lose Brennos' whole activation, but I'm okay with that because that side of the board is really, really slim. And like, I know he's going to feat a unit somewhere, and I'm trying to make him choose where to go because my plan up here is going to be feat and try to clear all the Banes. But the problem is Morv doesn't have the Fury to cast Mortality because it costs 3, and I'm only sitting on 1. The Moonhound was in range to walk and punch 1 Bane, which would have got me up to 2, so if I had Harmonious instead of my Spell Slaving failing to hit, I could have tried a Mortality one of the dudes, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, and you were hoping for Brennos to not need Primal, so like the Mortality was probably the better call.
Yep. So there, because of my promotion, you saw on the other turn, I had him flip it to me. I had to measure command, and wherever I promoted, one lady was going to be out, so I had to walk a lady back into command. And everyone else pretty much aimed, because they're all in the zone. I think the back one by the AoE got nudged a little bit, but we'll end up correcting that, because when I ran turn 2 or turn 1, they were all in the zone. So now I'm feated, I'm aiming, they're prayed, I'm rat 10, so I need not snakes. I'm POW 11, so because of prey. So a POW 11 Weapon Master, I only need a 5 on 3 dice to kill, and then the explosion only needs 2 to kill.
Yeah,
3. It's a POW 13.
It's pretty harsh. This is the thing that I thought that Morvahna just put up clouds for her feet, or not clouds, but forests. And then like this whole blowing up thing was not. I should have just looked at her card first, but I could have spaced out better for this. But you just watch the Banes start melting apart, and since Voidbringer and Death Toll are returning them and Ethan's Feet's removing them, I'm kind of losing any of that recursive edge that I probably could have gotten back.
Because the initial guy hit RFPs, but the explosion itself doesn't. So like he makes a few tough checks. I didn't have the Fury to Mortality, so that was kind of rough, but it's okay because I just have enough attacks, and I'm trying to limit how many dudes he can mini feet back. So in there you see my meaty hand just punch the building.
Yeah, that building is for many reasons not a great thing.
So now the blood pack, I believe, are going, or no, I think I'm still doing.
Yeah, it's still going. Like this is the second time I've had to relive this moment, and it just never ends.
Like it just takes a while. And there, I'm doing some harvest triggers just to get transfers, because the Gorax is still a transfer target, and so is the Moonhound. So I only took up to 3. That way, if the Moonhound had to run or do something, I could pull all my Fury in just to be safe. Because I'm assuming Brennos is going to die and he's primal, so I don't care. But it doesn't really matter. And there, I'm moving up. You can see he broke off his base. He's just blue tack back on. I'm walking them into the zone too as a second unit. And I'm just popping some shots from downtown with arcing fire. And I'm trying to snipe out the Bane UA. I believe I'm going to eventually get there. But I'm doing some explosions. I believe one of these... Yep.
Yeah, that was the one on... Oh, no, it wasn't the Bane UA. I know that short story, the Bane UA gets nerfed and then lives on one.
Yep, he toughs.
Somewhere in this pile.
But then I believe I shoot him again.
I feel like he lived on one box and then maybe toughed or something. But there's Tartarus taking some damage. Yeah, that must have been the UA gone.
Yeah, because he was in blast damage range, and at dice -4, I cranked it.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that's hard about Brawlmachine is like...
And there was the UA. He just toughed.
There we go, yeah. Yeah, so the UA makes it. I was right.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, the UA did live because he toughed, and I didn't have mortality.
Okay, so that was harsh, a harsh lesson, but that's one of the nice things about Brawlmachine is now we get to play another game, and I don't have to. I get to actually recognize that Morvahna has a feat that really hurts my army. So that's something.
I mean, her feat used to do explosions and forests. Yeah. I think you just forgot about the explosion part.
I think so, yeah. Probably because in ye old days of Reach Infantry, when I had played into her last, the explosions didn't really matter because they were all like far apart.
They were AoE 3s. It was basically, I want to say, she has Eruption of Life, which is an AoE 3 POW 13 forest explosion, which is just like feet. But I feel like they switched her feet up to be AoE 4s and do healing instead of do forests. Yeah. I will admit, like, I was on a minions craze back then when they did the Tharn Sid and she went through Sid, so I wasn't following it so hot, and I ended up buying 10 AoE 4 rings because I thought they were still forests.
Yep, that was a good one. That was a nice burn.
Yeah.
So before we get too far, Goreshade did move off the flag to come and feat some Banes in. I feel like even though Brennos is primal and is just going to go ahead and run into nothing, I figured it was better to get him out of that zone because the problem is if I don't deal with what's going on over here, Brennos will frenzy, and then I'll just stay in that zone and score it for the rest of the game. So Ethan's kind of like forced me to kind of clear this zone out with my feet since I don't have anything else really crazy to do with it. The alternative option would be that Goreshade goes the other way and then feats into that zone. But then I'm still kind of in this weird position where like my Banes don't have quite enough room to fit over the wall and not land on top of Ethan's models. And it just isn't. It feels like I just need to try and attrition where I can because I can contest that circle zone for a little while, at least one more turn, and maybe pull back some scoring a little bit. But the bottom zone is the one that that he could definitely run away with if I don't get rid of Brennos. So the two remaining Banes go, and I believe they end up running or charging. And we do Voidbringer this turn, so we use the mini feat since we can, and we're going to line these guys up around the wall a little bit just to try and keep them a little more safe against things. I'm really just kind of scraping for any way to contest this zone in a meaningful fashion, so that's why I've decided to put them where I have. And I think the other two, I think I couldn't actually get any charges if I didn't go through the corrosion pool, so I run everything up to get in position and then do my Voidbringer thing, or I charged something. I can't remember exactly how this all played out. Something happened and I Voidbringered, so that's just the way that is. Otherwise, there's a Scrap Thrall on my flag, and I haven't gone with the Desecrator yet, but now I guess I'm going to. And I think I'm using one of the Blood Pack as a fire beacon here, just because I can. This way I don't have to worry about scattering, and I should be able to catch a couple of them. But unfortunately, with a boost, the Desecrator misses, and the scatter isn't terrible. So I think we still end up catching a couple things here. I boost damage on the Tharn, because that's the one that I'd really like, or not Tharn, because they're all Tharn.
The Blood Pack.
The Blood Pack is the one I'd like to do work to, and I don't even crack armor on it, but on the two Night Witches, or not Night Witches, the Blood Trackers that I hit, they both evaporate. And the Scather is not in a really great place either, so it's just kind of hanging out there. So I'm trying to see if I can get a Bane into that Shaman, and Ethan's good enough to let me walk back and make sure I place at my furthest 3 inches, so I get within 1 Denegra of the Shaman. So I get 1 Bane there, and then the other 4 go into, all 5 go into Brennos based on how I position them out. And now we're just going to live over here and try and take them out. So I miss the Shaman, which it is what it is. I was just going for low-hanging stuff there.
Yeah, she's def 16 when you factor in set defense, so like...
Yeah, it's hard for them. So you can see me cranking the first couple crank damage on Brennos, so it only takes 3 to drop him.
With Dark Shroud, you're dice minus 4 because they're POW
12 to 14, so it would have been off 4. So yeah, I was doing some double digits of damage numbers to him even after Dark Shroud.
Yeah, so losing Brennos was to be expected. Like, he's only armor like 17, and they're POW 11 Weapon Masters up to POW 13. So like, or he's armor 18, so you're dice minus 5, but you were just
crushing him. So, it's worth noting though that last turn I think I missed the point where I'd run the Machine Wraith to contest your flag. So I do at that turn I go up 1 point and you don't go up any. So I've held that off a little bit.
Yep. So now it's only 3-2. Morv walks up. I ended up upkeeping all my spells. I brought back all the dudes I could because Tartarus RFP'd 2 of them. That's what those 2 Banes were that you summoned behind the wall, I believe, was actually Tartarus.
Oh, yeah, that's right, the Death Toll ones.
So I boost the hit. I get the Fury back once I kill it. And then I realized like I just didn't have the volume of attacks to... I should have done something else first just to get more of some extra Harvest Fury. So the Shaman goes, hits a dude with her stick, fails to kill, has to take her reach attack, and then she battle wizards an Eruption of Life into the middlemost warrior.
Yep, these are those AoEs coming back to haunt me.
It is only an AoE 3, so it only catches 4 of them.
Yeah, only catches 4. That's like 70% of the unit, 80% of the unit or something.
Yeah, so she killed 5 Banes by herself. So she redeemed herself for that missed mortality. I was still pissed at her. The Moonhound charges, boosts the Hixie's mat 5, POW 11, cranks it. So now I'm scoring that zone again. I'm scored my flag, so I'm sitting pretty good. So I'm going to go up 5-2. But I want to clear the zone and seal the game. And there, like, I harvested back a little bit more Fury from those dudes just to go back up and camp more. So I did have the Blood Pack go. The front guy engaged Tartar Sauce and boosted the damage roll with his corpse, while the other ones just aimed and lobbed some shots at the guys behind the wall because they have Hunter, so they ignore it. And then I do believe I did cheat this turn, or I will be cheating soon, because I forgot that Restoration, now you sack their combat action. So I think I did make some attacks with Bloodtrackers, but I only brought back 3 of them. No, I only brought back 2. So I don't think, because I didn't need all the attacks, so I'm going to have to check here. So I can't tell which ones I brought back, actually. They're all, like, intermingled.
I'm not 100% sure either, but I'm not too overly concerned about it. I think the only turn it really would have mattered was when all those Banes went down during the feat turn, but I don't feel like it's a big deal.
So,
but that whole unit's gone, yeah.
Eventually, yeah, I can't even make attacks anymore because nobody's in range. So, yeah, this turn I didn't need the extra attacks, but yeah, like you said, last turn.
So one of the things that I neglected to do when I built these Brawlmachine lists was build a sideboard for either one of them, and it's very specific why I chose not to. I just didn't feel like I needed it. Like, Dark Host is so focused in what it tries to do, and its techie side pieces are not really all that easily slotted in. So I don't feel like there was really any reason for me to try and build a sideboard for this one. Same thing with Ghost Fleet. Like, the pieces that you get access to are very specific, and the way that my list was set up, I just didn't find much of a reason for them. So I just decided to stick with the list that I had originally and just try and position better for Morvahna's feat and try and weather the storm a little bit better, because I feel like if I can deliver some stuff, I might be able to start doing some work to that list.
And for me, I didn't sideboard anything in. I thought, even though the Shaman missed her mortality, I realized at 25 points, I need the extra spell slave to get mortality out if Morvahna wants to keep bringing back max dudes and have harvest up. So I figured just keeping the Blood Shaman instead of Nuala, and I liked how the Blood Pack performed, because they're nice beacon targets and they can really chip some stuff up with mortality.
So I really hated this building in the middle of the table. Like, it really sucks for me and is in a good position for Ethan, but I really don't feel like it's good for me to go second. Like, with him having so much good range shooting, like, or his threat ranges are so huge, I just can't afford to go second and take the side that I'd prefer to have. So I opt to go first, and my deployment is really the same. I don't feel like anything about my deployment was wrong. It was more so just not properly preparing for the feat, and maybe like not like trying to avoid this this acid pool like the plague. So I decided to throw Tartarus in front of it because I figure if he gets corroded next turn, it's not really all that big of a deal. I'm trying to manufacture a good charge target over here because I was like just playing a little too fast. Thankfully, I've got just the smallest sliver of a line to see through my Banes and the Cloud, so I get Lamentation up and charge forward and get closer to that flag. Next up, it's kind of the same thing on the bottom for how I unpacked in the first turn. I want that Slayer in that zone going after that goat.
Yeah, pretty much identical for me too as last game. I did shift Brennos down a little bit more and move the spell slave up, because I want to try and put her towards more of the Def 12 stuff where her magic ability 6 might be more beneficial, and then hopefully Morv can arc through Brennos to get the mortality in the zone if she needs it, so that way she can boost. There I'm just running up, staying outside Tartar Sauce threat, because he is like the only source of RFP in your list. And then there, I'm just staying up. I ran too far. I just wanted to stay within an inch because, like last game, he can't physically get over the wall. And I'm just staying everybody in the zone again. There, I'm getting the blood pack. This time, I was smart and left a couple Bloodtrackers in the middle. That way, if I had to promote like either way, I could keep everybody command unless he got like the perfect drips and took out all the middle Bloodtrackers. A few blood pack go into the trench, where they can hopefully, some of them are positioned so they can aim and hit the whole zone next turn. There, I'm just respecting his Slayer threat because I'm with your Dark Shroud buff.
Yeah,
spell,
Shadowmancer.
Like, I don't think it's unreasonable that a Slayer can one round Brennos fully loaded. So, especially, now I'm only Def 12, so he doesn't even need the crit horns, but just moving up.
All right, so we are kind of back in the same boat again. Now it's my chance to just not position like a doofus and get into a position where hopefully I end up surviving the feat turn. So the Desecrator ends up getting fully loaded and getting a little more aggressive. We are not within range to get in that stealth bubble, so I just get to auto miss, and it's another decent scatter. It's like 2.5 inches or something like that to the 2, which it's barely enough to drift off this big clump that I was going for, but I still end up clipping a couple here. I think it's like 2.
Yeah, I think you only get 2 this time.
Yep. So not super great, but what can you do? I still get a Scather in a decent spot, so I can try and.
Or you caught 1.
Oh, so it's even worse. So
you were
was,
right in front of the other one, so like you just parked a hazard right in front of her.
Yeah. So the hazard is in a good spot. It's just that it didn't get as much as I was hoping it would. Next up, I decided to get a little spicy with Goreshade and lob a Hex Blast, and I'm not trying to land it to get to shake the upkeep. I'm trying to land it to just drift a bit and take out some more Bloodtrackers. So this one clips back and only gets 1 of them, but it's at least 2 gone right now. And even though like I think the harvest ability still hasn't like set in, so I'm still like traumatized from killing all these things and watching them come back. So I feel good by getting rid of them, even though I've just kind of spaced that they're gonna come back. Next up, I put my Scrap Thrall within threat of Brennos, but I leave my Slayer outside of threat. So this way, I've still got something contesting the zone that's going to force Ethan to come up and deal with it, and I will have a Slayer that's ready to deal with whatever comes into that zone to try and take out the little Scrap Thrall. My Machine Wraith is also towing the zone in the back corner. I figure that I can basically get to wherever I want to with speed 7 on this thing in an Incorporeal. So I'm not too worried about trying to get him further up the table to unpack into that flag. Basically, I think he'll be there when I need him to.
I mean, Brennos does have a magical stick, and so does the Spell Slave. So, like, there's a couple reach weapons you have to respect, but you can probably loop around them.
Yeah, that's my hope is that Brennos comes into the zone to deal with stuff, and then the Machine Wraith can go and do whatever it wants when the Slayer kills it. So I've got the handy-dandy blast widget out, and now I'm spacing out so I don't have to lose all my Banes right away. But this is, you can already kind of see what's going on here in that my Banes they're not really getting into the middle of the table because of that corrosion pool. Tartarus decides to get a little brave and take a dive in the acid bath, and that's where he's going to live for this turn, I guess.
So going into my turn, he spaced out, so like I'm not going to be feeding. There is the super cute trick of like, I haven't done it since Mark 2 because I think this might be the first game of Mark 3 I played Marv 1. The Holy Hand Grenade trick, where you take your heavy and you throw an enemy model because throws proc the feat, so then where it lands it explodes, which was super funny when it was a forest, because then you just had a forest on demand if it hit somebody.
Pocket forest.
Basically. So I bring back my 2. I have to spend 4 total because of the double upkeep. I'm just outside harvest threat, so I'm sitting on 2. My Moonhound, I'm measuring if he can walk up and engage 2 Banes, but he would take a free strike from the first one, so he just boost the hit. I have to boost damage. Brian preemptively rolled his tough check, so now I had to buy, and then I killed. So now I'm sitting on 3. So now I can hardcast Immortality. Spell Slave moves up, charges a dude, hits, pound 9 weapon, breaks armor. I get another harvest token, but I don't put it yet because I resolve the mortality that she spell slaves, and she misses again, needing a 6. And then, so now Morv is sitting on 4. So I'm trying to measure out where Brennos can go into the zone and be out of threat of his Slayer. So now I'm just trying to think, what can I do with Morv? Because I really don't want Tough to screw me like it did last game. So I'm going to be super cute here.
Oh, Tough really screwed you.
It did. Oh. So Tough didn't screw me, but it made me make extra attacks I didn't have to.
Yep.
Because if I get Mortality off, the Bloodtrackers auto-kill every Bane they hit with their range attack because they're POW 11 Weapon Master, and Mortality brings you down to Arm 13.
Yep, so if they're aiming, they miss on 1s and auto-kill.
Even if they're not aiming, I'm still Rat 10.
Yeah,
with
that hurts.
Prey and Mortality effectively.
Yep.
So, like, I really want it. but it's just getting line of sight to somebody's not behind the wall or engaged. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring how far forward I can go to catch people, because I don't want to sit on no camp, but I don't want to go too far forward because I am terrified of Goreshade.
Goreshade, yeah.
Goreshade, the Unredeemed, because I played him in Ret. Walking up, feeding Banes, and then just charging my caster. So what I'm doing is I am measuring stealth range where I can walk. I'm farther than 5 inches away from my Bloodtracker, so she doesn't block line of sight, but I'm within 10 of his Bane. That's not behind the wall. And then I boost Immortality. I'm out of Lamentation range, so I hit, and I'm on no camp. But Harvest is up, so that will not be no camp pretty soon. So there, I'm trying to measure what can get on Tartarus because I don't want him killing dudes, and I realize a couple of the blood pack can walk and shoot, and then a couple of the ladies can get up there too. He's not their prey, but I'm hoping that Pound 9 Weapon Masters at dice -8, like if they spike a couple,
you'll be able to chip some damage or something maybe.
Yeah, if I get a couple, then the blood pack can kind of clean up. They can't aim though since he has stealth, so they have to walk up there. And then there, I'm just transitioning a couple up and forward, and I realize, like, no, they all have to be in the zone, forgetting that the blood pack are going to be in the zone. Because I think the real power of Morv's list is, like, the reoccursion every turn contesting, and unless you have RFP, you just can't stop it. So now I'm just moving up. The ladies who aimed are popping their shots, and then because of his spacing, I'm actually killing more Mauls than I have. I'm killing them faster than I have attacks, because the back ones are, I'm only range 7, so if you're spacing out for AoE 4s, like after a little bit, I run out of people to make attacks with. All I can get are basically the ones in the zones, so the Banes outside the zone are safe, because like I can't make attacks, they're all out. I think I might get one more.
Yeah, but you've kind of done what you needed to do in freeing up the zone from those Banes, so now anything that's outside is just like a bonus for you.
Yeah. Like if I had Nuala, then I could repo back and like play some games, but even though the Blood Shaman missed Immortality again, I still feel like it's a valuable inclusion. It's one of those things where like you don't want to emotionally cut a model because it didn't perform the way you expected it to. Like she's still good, and just because she missed all her mortalities doesn't mean that is inherently her problem. If she wasn't my only solo in the list, she would be gone.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't need her for this scenario because Morv's going to be sitting on a flag.
Yeah, the flags are pretty well positioned for casters to camp them.
Yep. So I get 2 in range. They do decent damage to him at dice -3.
Yeah,
I leave him on 1.
Yeah, 1 box is what he's sitting on. So I'm flirting with disaster in that acid pool.
So now the last blood pack, he shot the scrap Thrall just to make sure he didn't come into the zone. And then I shoot the Bane UA this time. So now I do clear the UA because with mortality, I'm dice +1. And I just needed a 4 and no tough check.
Yep.
And now here's some more cute stuff. Brennos is measuring where he can get in range of his Wind Thrower spell. It's Ravaging Winds. It's range 10, POW 14. So I can clear the
Machine
Wraith and then hopefully stay outside of Slayer threat. Because that's my plan. Like, thanks to triangles and the fact that the Slayer is farther back than the Machine Wraith, I can walk my 5. I'm not even walking the full distance, and I'm staying up a little bit more. Because we both threaten the same distance, but I'm able to position, so now I threaten the whole zone and you don't. So I boost the hit, auto kills. I'm debating putting up more Fury, but the doggo went hot. And I believe I'm camping 3 right now. The Gorax just walks, but I believe I accidentally put that Fury there because it was just there from last turn. I was like, oh, he ran. But like I had measured the 5 to make sure he could get in there.
So Ethan's up on scenario already. It's 2-1 because you got the circle zone. Yep.
Or no, Tartarus is still alive, so it's 1-1.
Oh, 1-1. So at least I'm feeling okay with that. But as I'm going through here and figuring out what Goreshade needs to do, I kick one over to the Desecrator, and I need to figure out. Like, I decide to fully load the Slayer. the Gorax is there and I just want to kill it, and I don't know what it is, but I just always feel like Slayers never really get there. So I load him up fully because I really don't want to not kill that Gorax. The worst thing that I could imagine happening is Slayer comes up short, Gorax heals the 2 boxes that he needs to get fully functional, and then a light takes out my heavy.
I don't even think, like, old Gorax could when he was Fury 4 and POW 12, but now I think it's more of like you need to clear the zone and you can't fall behind on scenario. Like,
Yeah,
if
I
you
can't
don't,
afford to.
If you don't clear that zone, like, I'm going to snowball scenario.
Yep.
Because I will just clear it on my turn with Brennos.
It's worth noting that Tartarus did die to a corrosion check, so me getting a little spicy with him going through that pool ultimately ended him.
It was a calculated risk, but man, was Tartarus bad at math.
Yep, he is definitely not good at it. I miss his Thresher, I really do.
Yeah, Rapid Strike is nice, but
it's just not...
It's not Thresher.
It's not enough for him, I think, really. He just, like, getting Vet Leader's cool and everything, but Thresher was just better.
I mean, but did he bring back Banes? I can't remember.
I thought he did in his old version. I mean, I played... In Mark II, I played Cryx in just a very flirty, not serious fashion, and I think every time I played into Cryx, it was like Denny with Bile Thralls. So, like, it's
Gaspy.
Yeah, sorry, Gaspy. It was Gaspy 2 everywhere, because, like, why play Denegra 1 when you had Old Lich 2? So my Slayer ends up killing the Gorax without even having to buy any attacks, so I kind of feel like a noodle here for over-allocating to him, especially since I had to allocate fully to that Desecrator because I didn't have any Banes to accumulate off of, and I didn't want to, like, get into the weird, like, activation issues with trying to feat to get the accumulator targets. So I decide to walk the Desecrator up and tow him into that circle zone. I figure he'll be a little bit more difficult to get rid of. And I decide to try and lob a shot into one of these Bloodtrackers, but it's more so like trying to figure out which one I can hit to give me the best opportunity here. And I'm within stealth range of the one that I'd like to go for. And now I'm drawing my line of sight to it. And the one that I'm looking at is kind of in the back-ish behind the wall, more towards the top. If I hit that one, I end up clipping 5 Bloodtrackers, and I feel like that's a decent amount of Bloodtrackers to kind of slow down the restoration game, even though I don't have a whole lot here to be fighting in the attritional game right now. So I end up missing the attack, and I drift way far back. Well, I normally would drift way far back, but since I'm really close, I go half distance, and I still only clip like 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think you get 2.
Yeah, so 2 of them go down. It definitely isn't what I was hoping for with that one. I was looking for a nice swing with just being able to crack that one on the noggin, but it just doesn't pan out. So now Goreshade, I was thinking about getting a little frisky with him and killing the Shaman that's behind this building here, and that way I could put out Lamentation a little further. But upon further reflection, I figure that if I do that, Goreshade probably just dies. So I decide to throw a contesting Scrap Thrall in the side. Actually, there's two contesting Scrap Thralls in that bottom zone. So I feel like I'm at least positioned well to where when Ethan comes in with Brennos to kill that Slayer, I've at least got some options to kind of slow the scenario down. And now Goreshade gets to go. He comes over the other side of the flag, and I'm feeding all these Banes in. The Desecrator's kind of in my way for where I want to go. But given that I want to score the flag with Goreshade still and all my Scrap Thralls are elsewhere, I kind of have to take some sacrifices with the positioning on Banes here. I decide to camp with Goreshade the rest of the way and just charge my Banes off. Some of these guys are getting actual charges, and some of them are running just to jam. With Ethan's clock running down, I think it's running down, is like 10.
I'm down. I have more than 10 minutes.
Okay, never mind. So I was thinking,
I actually have more time than you for once.
I know, it's weird, right? Especially with you playing Circle. So I guess my hope here is maybe I can kill some things, and then maybe it'll take Ethan time to get them out of the zone. But with Banes being so easy to kill, I'm just kind of in a weird spot here.
And I think they all missed their attacks.
Sure did.
So now I got a bunch of Banes in my face. There's a couple clumped up, so I could possibly feat this turn. But I'm going to try and leverage Blood Pack instead. So now I'm bringing back... I'm trying to space them around that AoE, and then I realize, like, no, that's the one that died from in front of it, so I can't place there, so I end up placing her somewhere else. Just outside of it. Then I hit the wall a couple times.
Yeah, it's a little bumbly. That wall is also another, like, problem for me in this game.
So I'm just basically plopping them all back in the zone. And then... the Moonhound, or my Blood Shaman, tries to punch a Bane, hits. The Pound 9 doesn't break armor, so I have to take the reach attack again. It hits.
I think I did
kills.
Did forget to say that I did pack a couple Banes into that Moonhound and left it on like 5 boxes or something.
You took out its body, and then she tried the Mortality of the Slayer and missed again. So that's 3 mortalities missed. But that is life. So now I'm moving up Blood Pack. Because a couple of the Banes are clumped up. So I believe one can engage, I want to say 3 of them, 2 of them, one gets the other, and then the other 2 are just aiming. So now, because they all start with a corpse, they can't boost bows anymore. So, like, I'm just going to boost their melee attacks if I need to. So now the one goes up, his initial hits, he kills, gets a corpse, uses it to buy, kills the next one, and now... the other Blood Pack are aiming. They're shooting.
This was one of the Banes that was left from that original unit, so I was able to take the tough check, but he doesn't quite make it.
Yep, because I haven't mortality'd yet. And then there, I realized I missed my harvest triggers. Brian's nice enough to let me get them, so I killed 4 Banes so far that are in control. Those 2 last ones were way out, but the one the Shaman killed, and then the 3 that the Blood Pack and melee killed. So I'm sitting on 4, so now I can do a boosted mortality. I was really hoping to do an Eruption of Life and just save on Fury. So now the Moonhound goes, boost the hit, boost damage on 2 dice kills. So now I get another Fury thanks to Harvest. I had the boost for 2 dice because his body was out. That was the only thing crippled. You did it, like, to the 2.
Yeah.
And then, like, you cranked him, but it really hurt. More of hard cast a boosted mortality. Sits on 1. I move up so I can get... within 14 of that Scrap Thrall, because I'm hoping Brennos overkills this guy, and then I can magic attack him, kill him, and then get a Fury for Harvest. So Brennos goes in. I don't crit with the crit pitch, and I was debating boosting just to, because I was positioned where I could crit pitch him into the building, knock him down, and then I can just take auto-hitting stick attacks. But I don't boost, I don't crit, but I end up hitting thanks to mortality, and then I'm dice +1 again, but this time instead of primaling my heavy, it's just because of mortality, and I'm just going through. You can see his grid. I'm doing pretty good. I buy my 3rd attack, and this time I was able to get both initials into him, which helped a lot, and now I Battle Wizard into the Scrap Thrall that's not in my control because I realized the other one was a cover, and I didn't want to go full, but now I'm only camping 1, whereas before... or actually, I think I'm on 0 still right now because Banes haven't died. So, the Bloodtrackers, they swap prey now to the heavy. Because the Shaman missed her mortality into the Slayer and Morph had to cast it herself, that's what I was hoping to do. I was hoping to mortality this heavy. And now this is the turn where I do believe I cheat. And I think a couple of the Bloodtrackers that came back accidentally made attacks because they got mixed in, and I didn't mark them at all.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, we've said it. We haven't played these casters in quite some time, so it's easy to just let that stuff slip. But at the end of your turn, you end up scoring 2, and I get my 1 for my flag.
Yep.
So I don't have a whole lot here to work my turn. I've got a Scrap Thrall and then my caster because everything else is dead. So I think I spend a little bit of time kind of debating what it is that I should be doing with myself here. And part of me was like, let's make a weird like scenario play, but Ethan's lost nothing because of the way that things restore on the circle
lost my
zone.
Gorax.
You lost your Gorax, but whatever to him. So with Morvahna only camping one, my best bet here is probably to just go in and try and throw bleeds at her. So I charged the Argus first to get in range, but then I realized that the Argus would just give her transfers, so I backed that up a little bit and charged the Shaman. I end up missing her, which isn't a big deal because I don't care so much about hitting. So I start throwing some bleeds in, and I boost the first one because I'm like, I got enough to where maybe I can do some extra damage and boost the damage too, and do a decent amount to her. I think it was like 10 or something like that.
8.
So the next one I boost, and then I realize, oh, this is the last one, and you have a transfer, so it literally doesn't matter. So I only do 2 damage to her, and that's the end of my turn. So Oblivion is very likely for Mr. Goreshade here.
So Brian did contest both zones, so I only scored 1. So I believe I'm up 2, and the Deathwalker's contesting my zone. Or not my zone, but the circle zone. So Brennos goes up, just boosts a hit into the Scrap Thrall. Hits, he kills, his explosion does no damage. And like, Goreshade's sitting there on no camp, but I don't have the time to kill him because I had less than 2 minutes. So what I do is I walk up, boost a headbutt, do no damage, and then, because only his body is out, my Shaman runs to his flag, Bloodtrackers just aim, they shoot the Deathwalker, and now I score 4 and win. Because I think that's much safer than clocking myself trying to kill Goreshade.
Yeah, his stats are pretty respectable, and although I don't think he would have made it much far, but it is, if you go for Goreshade, it does mean that you've got like the chance of your chances of losing go up because you're spending time to make those attacks.
Yeah, like it seemed like it was a trap. Not like, I don't know if it was even an intentional one, because like you said, you were just trying to kill my caster.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to lay anything out. If that was the case, I would have just ran him up and then full camp, but then that probably would have made it so you would for sure not go into him.
Yeah. And like, I guess because he couldn't contest, all you had was 2 miles that could contest, and all my stuff threatened so far, they can just kill it.
Yep.
And it's weird to say Bloodtrackers threatening far with their range 7 javelins.
But when they're ADing, like they basically are threatening the middle of the table on top of one. So,
when my gun threats out-threaten your melee threat,
yeah,
that's the big thing.
It's rough. So like, I know that Goreshade 1 is definitely on the watch list, and this game didn't really showcase why he's on that watch list, because Ethan's lists are so tailored towards dealing with infantry, and I've pretty much got it out of my system now that you cannot bring 2 similar lists to Brawlmachine games. Like, you just can't, unless those lists are combined arms. Both my lists were very infantry heavy, and it's not infantry heavy like crazy because there's 1 max unit between the 2 of them, but there wasn't a whole lot of emphasis on leaning one way or the other. I think when you build Brawlmachine lists, having 2 units is really nice to have, even if they're 2 small units, and then just filling out your battle group as much as you can. I think the one thing that I've realized with this list in general is like Dark Host just does not feel good in Brawlmachine. It doesn't allow you to do the things that Cryx wants to do with it, which is just like Cryx harder, bring a bunch of Banes. Because that's the real true power of Banes is just being able to crush someone under the weight of those Weapon Master attacks. Like, they'll lose a bunch on the way in, but your Wraith Engine should help get you there. Derek Wraith should help get you up there as well. And usually the casters you're playing, they either have a good way of protecting them, or you're at least bringing enough Banes to where you don't care if you lose like a quarter of them or something on the way in. But in Brawlmachine, you don't have the points to put that many Banes or that many options in to make the list function. I think that this Goreshade 1 list would have been much better suited to be played in Black Industries, where I could take a lot of heavies to leverage the capabilities of the Theme Force. Having Carapace on all of my jacks would probably not make Ethan's heavy shooting list very happy. Even though it probably would be still not terrible for him to take them out, I still have the unit of Banes to pull in to take out the things that I can't get my heavies into. So there's definitely some wiggle room with how you want to build Goreshade, but I really just don't feel like Dark Host is the way to go with him right now, at least.
No, like, he doesn't really do anything for the army. Whereas, like, I think Dark Host can work, but you have to look at it differently. Like, because you don't have those staples. You can't take Wraith Engines. You can't play Scar 1 because that's how you Cryx harder with more Banes. But you can do, like, the Cavalry. I think Cavalry units in Brawlmachine feel really strong. They're fast. They're aggressive. If they have multiple attacks, if you can get impact attacks, and if you can deliver them. So, like...
They're also somewhat durable, too.
Yeah. So I think somebody like Coven, who just do so much and have so many angles, and with a super defensive feat that they can leverage and get up the board. Like, they can play Dark Host pretty well, but I agree Goreshade... If he was in Black Industries, I don't think I would have dropped Morv. I would have went for Malsair because his list was kind of... It was similar to this one, but the min units... I only had a min unit of Bloodtrackers for just random teleporting shenanigans if I needed it. And I had a min unit of Ravagers with UA, so I feel like them with Curse could clear a couple heavies, and then I have Sunhammer, and I think Sunhammer... It's normally cute. Like, Malsair, of course, makes it good because my logic for him was in Brawlmachine, pillars are models, and that is a free contesting piece I get every turn. Like, Malsair doesn't have a feat most matchups, but you know what he does have in Brawlmachine? He has a 2-cost spell that says I contest any zone I want from anywhere on the board almost. Like here, if I'm on the flag, I can contest his flag, the circle zone, and the square without dedicating a single model. And I feel like that's just too good at Brawlmachine.
It's really quite potent when you consider how valuable a single attack is in this game size. Having to spend 1 or 2 attacks to get rid of a pillar is not something that I want to be doing.
And especially if, like, I could put a pillar way in the bottom corner of that rectangle, and I could put one way in the back of that circle.
Yeah,
like,
so it might even contest for a couple turns.
Like, I can just recast them every turn, and, like, with a 16-inch control area, I can just do that. And then Malsair has, like, the pocket assassination. Like, if you get within 14 inches of a blood tracker and your death is what saves you, you just die because Doppler mark.
Yep.
But, like, I feel like I went on a side tangent about Malsair because he was what I was really excited about to play in this pairing, but then I was like, I have to drop Morv into this. But, like, Restoration just feels too good. Morv 2 is on the ban list now, but, like, Morv 1 isn't on the watch list. I don't know how you skip Morv 1 to go to Morv 2 when she has to kill herself for her recursion, and she has to kill herself for even, like, the rerolls. Whereas Morv 1 just trivially says, I can bring back up to 6 blood trackers a turn and just don't give a crap.
And she also has the, like, one of the easy answers would be, well, it's an upkeep, you can just strip it. But she just takes D3 to stop it from being stripped. So, like, you're not being able to bring, like, a ton of battle priests, right? So you can't just sit there and try and zap it multiple times. You've got, like, 1, maybe 2 shots at stripping an upkeep, and for Morvahna to keep a unit from dying at all, I think she'd easily take that D3 just to get the Fury back with Harvester to heal it back up. Like, it's not a big deal for her.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable for her. Lamentation made the things a little weird this game for her to upkeep Harvest, upkeep Restoration, and bring back 5 blood trackers, sit naked, harvest back up to full if I need to. I've done that multiple games where it's just like back in Mar 2 with Harvest, where, like, you just kill everything in her control, especially even on feet turn, and it's just like, well, I'm camping 6. Good luck. And she has sack pawn, so, like, I feel like that's really good. Like, the last game I had a blood pack next to her just in case he wanted to go for a cagey shot, but, like, she's just really good.
No, she feels solid, and I think, like, although our attempt at Broken Machine was definitely more of a one-sided one, I still think the game was valuable for learning what to not do so much with Goreshade 1 and definitely bring some visibility to a caster that might be problematic in the future. But their epic list now, as they're calling it, just feels it's you have to draw that line somewhere between what's okay to have and what's not okay to have, because I feel like every time you push that line, right, there's going to be something else that is going to be more busted, right? So, like, if McBane's on the list because of his, like, extreme survivability, does Morvahna equal that too? I mean, like, killing a unit of 10 things is really not easy to do.
Yeah. And like every time you move the line, like there's just stuff that's still close to the line. So it's like, well, if you move more of one, what about other recursion?
There's not defined brackets, right?
Yeah. And like I think we talked about before, or we have talked about before, like this isn't us lamenting line of sight. Like it's really hard to balance a ban list, especially for this is fan created. Like PP has no insight into this and they have no input in my like from what I understand. It's not like line of sight asks them like who do you think is too good? Like it's from their play testing, from their league games, and just from like reps. So it's going to take time to like hammer out a solid ban list and see like where do we draw that line in the sand. Like if Morv 2 is too good, then in my opinion Morv 1 is definitely too good because she does that feat every turn without killing herself. But then like where is the line? But I feel like recursion in Brawlmachine, if you don't have RFP, like what do you do? Like you brought Ghost Fleet to show off its RFP, but both my lists just accidentally had RFP. Like I didn't build this pairing with RFP in mind. I built it with if I face RFP, I don't drop Morv, I drop Malsair, and then I don't have to worry about it. Whereas like in my sideboard, like I bring in magical weapons, I bring in Dispel. It's just answering the tools that you need.
Yeah, you just kind of like caught my lists by accident. And again, a lot of that's part of my fault too because I didn't build too differently. Like my lists were just too samey.
Yeah.
But overall, still enjoying the format. Even when we bring busted casters like this, I still think it's a fun format to play, and I look forward to seeing how the rest of the ban list kind of shakes out in the future.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to get some reps with Malsair because I like when you like I've talked about it. Like you would think pillars are too good, but maybe I'd like to get some reps and see because like he can't do everything he wants at 25, and even more of like I didn't have enough tools to leverage harvest and like get back up to full fury every turn before she activates and then cast mortality because there's just not enough attacks. So maybe like Malsair has to pick to be super defensive and like upkeep all of his spells, put up a pillars or two and play it safe because he's 14-14. But I'd like to get some reps just to see if maybe he should be on the quote epic list.
Yeah, it's rough. The circle casters just do weird things, so they're more likely to put themselves in problematic positions.
Yeah, because there's a few, like when I was going through, like I was looking at Baldur 1, like I feel like his feat is really good in Brawlmachine. Kruger 1's feat just mows down infantry. And like most of these lists I'm playing in Tharn, like it comes back to themes sometimes. There just feels like there's some themes that are too good at 25 points.
Thanks for tuning into this one. We look forward to making the next one for you. If you have any suggestions or any requests, I guess, you can leave them in the comments below, and we usually have a lot of these planned out, but I'm more than willing to listen to future possibilities for matchups.
Yeah, because I want to try and branch out and try some lists I'm not thinking of, or casters even. Like
get that Grail action.
I was thinking about Grail with some Death Wolves, like Storm Rager, Reach, Overtake dudes with pseudo Berserk with corpses. Sign me up.